We had talked for a while about adoption and what that would look like. So we're already a blended family. Derek and I both brought a daughter into our marriage and our relationship. And so we kind of thought, hey, what better way to expand our family than through adoption? And so we went through the training and learned kind of all of our options that were out there, had several conversations about what was the best next step for us. And we decided to go adoption through the foster care system. We just felt like that was where there was a significant need for kids who have unfortunately witnessed and been through the trauma. And we felt we could bring them in and give them a loving and comforting home. One day I was out on the internet kind of just looking at different resources outside of Minnesota and stumbled across the Kids Belong website. And Minnesota didn't have a Kids Belong connection. And so I clicked on South Dakota and I found our kiddos' biography there. We weren't looking at a sibling group. We were looking more for one child or, potentially maybe two at the most. And so to be honest with you, I was like, it's just not what we're looking for. And I was kind of like, wow, I think this is a sign from God that we need to talk about this. And so I sent it to Derek, and honestly, he kind of was like, what? 3 kids? Are you serious? But we got on the phone with our social worker, Michaela, and it was really nice because he got to ask questions about the kiddos, kind of put our mind at ease, right? When we went to our children, my daughter was 5 at the time, and I said, hey, what do you think about bringing in, having some kids come live with us who, don't have moms and dads to care for them like you do? And she said, Mom, I'd like that. I'd share my toys with them, and then you can be their new mommy and daddy. And I just started crying. Like, I got goosebumps, and I was just like, oh, that's a God thing, 100%. And so I shared that with Derek and was like, hey, this is another sign leading to yes. And then when we talked to Derek's daughter about it, she was over the moon excited to have kids her own age to play with. When we explained the kids were coming from foster care and we tried to be as open and honest with them as we could. And she looks at me one day, she's like, Angie, Dad, can we bring all of them into our home? And that's when we really knew that she understood our why. You had this group of kids who had so much energy and love and happiness, and they just wanted somebody to love them. They had been through so much things that Derek and myself have never been through or could even imagine going through ourselves, let alone our children. Yet they were so happy and full of life and just love in their heart. And we felt like if we could give them half of the home that we were raised in, that would be a benefit to those kids.
When you see them, you don't want to see them split up, There's always that chance they get split up, so you don't want to split them up when you see them all together, how much they cared for each other,
We became outnumbered quite quickly, parents to children ratio in our home. But they have that friendship and that bond, and it made, I think, transition easier. If we had just taken one child, they wouldn't have had that safety net and comfort, right? So some of the emotions that they go through in the transition of moving into a new home and what the future looks like, I think that having their sibling there, that companion, made that transition a little smoother. It allowed us to better parent too, if that makes sense. If one kid was maybe having an emotional day, we could leverage that kid to help us with the other kid versus just having only one kid to kind of manage through that. Something unique with our story, Mary and Louie were in the same home, in the same foster home. And Nola, the youngest, she actually lived in a separate foster home. So they were in foster care for 3 years. And so when they moved in with us, this was the first time in 3 years they had lived together as siblings, because the foster care system didn't have enough foster homes for the kids to live together in. So not only did we keep the sibling group together, but we actually got to reunify them as well by bringing them into our home.
These three cheer for each other all the time. You know, they're there for each other all the time.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add, Mary, she drew a picture, and I would like to share it with you guys. But she drew a picture of two lions. She's big into lions, and they're sitting and looking at the sunrise, and it's got a little like bubble over here of thinking, and it says our family name DeVos, and it says DeVosses don't give up on each other, and that God knew my heart needed you. And that's what we tell our kids, that, you know, they were sent to us from God, and that God knew that we needed them in our family to complete our family.